Hey y'all, welcome back to My Dangerous Thoughts. I'm Shane. I'm really excited about this video because I sat down with a guest, Bryce Peever from Digital Ground Game. This is an organization that I support and volunteer for that's laser focused on protecting liberal democracy in the upcoming midterm elections. Before we jump, I want to add some quick context. A couple weeks before we recorded this, DGG raised more than $250,000 in an 8-hour livestream event, which, if you're a certain age, is the modern version of a telethon fundraiser.
I see you a minute, sir? Excuse me, but we have a minute.
Who is that man?
Could you tell, excuse me.
Who is he?
Would you be kind enough to tell me, who are you?
Nobody. I just walked by. I'm delivering a message.
And people in the traditional political establishment should be noticing that an online community is able to tap into this much fundraising and convert it to on-the-ground action. So I am excited to get to talk to Bryce about that. Unfortunately, this is the first interview on the channel, so there were some technical kinks that I need to work out. The audio isn't great, but it was a good discussion, so I think it's worth sticking around for. Welcome, Bryce Peever, Executive Director of Digital Ground Game, which is an independent PAC that focuses on connecting online communities to real-world political action, including one of the largest independent canvassing operations for the 2024 election. Bryce, thank you for joining me.
Yeah, no problem, man. Excited to be here. Excited to talk.
Can you talk a little bit about what Digital Ground Game is and how it's different from maybe other organizations?
The initiative is basically how do we get online audiences engaged with real life activism? And the reason it's different from a lot of the bigger organizations or like the DNC proper or anybody who's like trying to get into these spaces is that we actually inhabit these spaces already, right? Obviously, Digital Ground Game, we come from Destiny's Community, DGG. That's kind of the signifier there. But a lot of the issues around a lot of the issues around like the establishment media right now or like the DNC proper is that it seems like they don't know how to navigate these spaces properly. They don't know that they're walking into landmines, right? I saw today, I guess, McMorrow, she was going to go on. I don't know if you're aware of like that Twitter user. His name is like Matt XIV. She was going to go talk on his show and then backed out because he was going to talk to her about like healthcare and foreign policy. And that's just something that pops up quite a bit, right? Like in the fact that she is probably heading, if she was to go through with that video interview, she would probably be heading into like a very tense situation or a very like oppositional situation. And they don't know that, right? They think, oh, these people are, they're left leaning online, so they must like us. But the reality is that media nowadays is a lot more complicated than that. And so where we come in is, number one, we're willing to absorb a lot of the like flack that comes with being online creators and like working with online creators. That's a big thing. And then number two, we also know how to navigate these spaces because we're in these spaces. We consume this media regularly. We're not a staffer, right? Like this is how we get our work done. So we're better able to navigate these spaces better than basically any organization I've seen. So.
And you mentioned left-leaning. So what are the org's political sort of ideological alignments?
The best way I would put it is like center-left liberal is kind of like moderate Democrat. There's a lot of varying opinions on what needs to be done in the state of this country. I might have some like more moderate prescriptions than others, but a big thing is also that we just really need to shift to the left overall. So like if you're a progressive or you consider yourself further left, it's not like a disqualifier. It's just the majority of our people believe in liberal politics, believe that Democrats are better than Republicans, and that's what we need to push for in 2026 and beyond. So,
yeah, and then that also includes protecting little L liberalism, right? Which is sort of on the ballot every 2 years now.
Yep, exactly. One of the big failures we feel of like the Democratic establishment is that there's been kind of the way I like to think of it is that they've been in power for so long that when you're in that position, you don't really feel like you have to address certain things. And it's been death by a thousand cuts for like liberalism's kind of, downswing that we're saying, right? Because that's been the norm, that's been the standard. Why do you really have to go out of your way to defend yourself against, Nazis or against communists or whatever, these like weird fringe groups? But the internet is no longer this weird fringe group. Now everybody's got like a big community that they can go and say, hey, this sucks, this sucks, this sucks. So it's going to take a stronger hand and a more aggressive defense of liberalism if we're going to see it continue past 2028. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. To do that, you need money. That's sort of where the rubber always meets the road in American politics, right?
Yeah, 100%. It's the engine that makes everything go. Unfortunately, I wish it wasn't that way, but yep.
Especially post Citizens United.
Oh yeah, exactly. Well, and like the thing is that the thing is, just to like super quick rant on this. The thing is that all of this stuff at the end of the day does cost something. I actually wrote about it in a piece for the Pragmatic Papers yesterday, where it's like fundraising is good, but fundraising is really just so you can get other things that you want. This is always going to be a problem in politics, whether like we get rid of the US dollar and go to communism, like getting the actual materials needed to make political change is always going to cost something tangible. So, yeah.
I mean, even if you're just putting up posters, someone has to make the posters, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Now it's all digital, obviously, but those ads, that messaging, those posts, they still have to be created by somebody. That's still time and effort. So somehow you have to square that, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, a lot of people, when they look at the Citizens United decision or anything, they think like, oh, this is such a big problem. The reality of the situation is that if there was another way to get big amounts of money into politics, everybody would do it. But it's a tough deal.
Well, I think most people would argue they want to keep money out of politics.
Yeah, and I get that. But the problem is that, like, there's no incentive for people to go do politics, right? Like, that's where you get grifters and people like that who will use whatever levers of power they can get just to get into a position to earn money, right? If we had these positions actually making money, like Biden's campaign manager, I think made like $120,000 and Trump's made double that. It's like, if we're going to keep good people in these positions and people who want to be here, eventually they do have to make money at some point. This is just the world we live in.
Right. Well, on that note, let's talk about DGG's latest fundraiser, because that raised some eyebrows, I think, in online spaces. And that's originally why I reached out. So tell me a little bit about your fundraiser and what's going to happen from here.
So the fundraiser went really well. We set a goal of like $100,000 beforehand, and obviously we knocked that out of the park. We raised over $270,000, 220 of that in the 8-hour span of the stream. What happens from here is we focus on putting that money into the places that it needs to go, right? One of the things that we do is we do house canvassing, which is we basically get 8 people from the internet. You know, they apply, we go through a whole process with them, an interview process, and then we put them in a house, and essentially not only do they knock doors, but they learn how to organize over like a 6-month time period. And like all the stuff that Digital Ground Game has been set up is because of a program like that in 2024, the one that I participated in. One of the things that we've noticed with like democratic spaces and nonprofit spaces is that there's a lot of trial by fire. It's a lot of, hey, go to the state, figure out how to get votes. And that just doesn't work, right? People get burnt out, people get sick of things, and it really becomes a grind to even get to a point where you feel like you're okay. So we want to change that, and our goal is to like essentially build the bench. And the house canvassing program is the way we do that, or one of the ways that we do that. We build organizers from zero to competent organizers, and it's a really cool thing. So we'll be doing 2 houses. Right now, the thought is we'll be doing at least 2 houses. The thing is that we have enough money for 2 houses right now and a couple of events, but we're continuously getting money, so there's no reason that like in September, if we have enough money, we can't pop up another house. It's just right now 2 is the number that we've come to. 1 in Michigan, 1 in Ohio, and then 4 events from that point on. Events are a lot harder to like nail down because those specifics basically you get a venue and that's when you know an event is happening. Obviously, we're not in Michigan or Ohio right now, so I can't say 100% that that's going to happen. I'd say like 95% that we're going to have an event in Michigan and Ohio. And then the other one we would want to do is in Colorado, they have a redistricting effort going on. And that was something actually started from Destiny's Community. So if we can figure out a way to help them out and get that across the line, that's fantastic. And then we have another wild card event. So we'll have to see what opportunities come up. It might wind up being, a second event in one of these states, or we may do something completely unrelated. We'll just have to see where the cards fall.
So you mentioned event. Fill that in a little bit. What does that mean? What's an example of an event?
Yeah, so events are basically weekend canvassing events is what DGG is known for and what DGG does. So what we do is we put out a big call to action saying, hey, come on out to this hotel in this state at this time and come knock doors for us for 2 days straight. And we do a bunch of like we do a bunch of like activities and stuff like that to give people like a real community sense of like, hey, this is more than just canvassing and knocking doors. Like I'm going there to hang out with people that have similar interests and do things like that. But yeah, that's the goal, is to basically set up weekend canvassing events, knock as many doors as we possibly can in that weekend, and provide very quick bursts of voter engagement for some of the things that we're wanting to do. You know, it may be for elections, it may be for ballot initiatives, what have you.
And how many people typically come out for these? Like, what's a good crowd? What's a great crowd?
So a great crowd is usually like 300 to 400 people. Those are our bigger events. They can range though. Yeah, they can range pretty heavily.
Nobody could do that.
It's insane, right? Like when we look at we surprise a lot of people when we talk in these spaces because like Cincinnati in 2024 was an event ran on Super Bowl weekend in fucking February, and we got 400 people out and knocked on 40,000 doors. And everybody's like, how are you guys doing this so early in the cycle? And it's just proof. Like, there's a lot of energy in the online spaces to get things like this done. We just need to foster that correctly. Go ahead.
I think that's spot on, too. It's like there's that element of people who are more online are also often more disaffected, right? And they're seeing problems, but not seeing ways to get involved. And I think one of the things DGG does super well is let people turn that into action in a very direct way, right? And not in a way that requires a ton of background or credentialing, or, you know, you don't have to have done this professionally in order to jump in and get involved.
Yeah, 100%. And that's been one of our goals, right? One of the big lessons that I learned personally in 2024 is that a lot of this seems harder to get into than it actually is. You can get a actually kind of scary amount of access just by like showing up consistently to like Democrat meetings or anything like that. And I think the way I perceived it is that I always thought politics was like a difficult thing to get into, and like you needed to know people or you needed to have experience or anything like that. And what 2024 showed me is you don't need that at all. You just need to have a good attitude and show up, and you will get way further than you probably have a right to. But that's just politics. They want people. So,
how did you pick Michigan and Ohio? Colorado makes sense, but what's specific about Michigan and Ohio?
So Ohio is a place we've canvassed before. We know the area, we know the laws around it, which is really good. And additionally, like with the current cycle, with the blue wave that's going on, Ohio has shifted away from being a swing state. And because Donald Trump sucks so bad, now we're back in swing state territory. And so it's like, okay, let's try and make sure that we get what we want out of that, because a lot of these seats, if we see a blue wave, we're gonna see not only the contested seats be won, but seats that we might not have another chance to get in like for 20 years. So Sherrod Brown is liked in Ohio. We want to go help out Sherrod Brown in Ohio because we don't know when the next opportunity to do that will be, like an actual opportunity. And then for Michigan, we really like Melanie McMorrow, or Stephanie McMorrow. Sorry, I fucked up her name. But we really like McMorrow, and it's close enough that we have some interesting things that we can do. A big part of the House canvassing program usually becomes colleges, right? In 2024, we would go table at colleges, and those aren't included in any of our stats or numbers, but we would go table and get voter committals from people at colleges, and people like other organizations like RISE would actually pay for those things. And so a lot of experience that the people on the ground got was because they actually went to colleges and organized and talked to young people and tried to get them to volunteer. And with Michigan, we've got the University of Michigan, we've got Michigan State. Like there's basically like a 90-mile radius where there's 4 different colleges that we can hit, and that's a fantastic thing for us. And then once again, it's a swing state. It's super important. We need to make sure that we win this, and that's going to be a close race. If McMorrow wins, we feel a little bit better about it. But if Abdul Said wins, then I know recent polling came out that showed him 3 points down to the Republican challenger. And it's like, blue no matter who applies to everybody. So we got to go help him out if that's what it winds up being.
Right. That becomes doubly relevant, right?
Exactly. And this is just like, we cannot throw these opportunities right now. We have public sentiment on our side. Donald Trump is the most unpopular he's been. He's going to drag down the entire Republican ticket. If we are not focusing on races that are close, we're missing out on opportunities here.
And more than that, I mean, he's dragging down the economy. He's dragging down our democracy. This is our chance to strengthen the republic, right?
Exactly. And then when you it's super important too, because when you look at the Voting Rights Act decision that just got passed by the Supreme Court, it's like we need everything we possibly can. These next 2 elections, 2026 and 2028, are absolutely massive for the future of our democracy. Just to be blunt, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so, how are when you talk about canvassing houses, right? That is renting a house, having people there for a prolonged period of time, going out knocking doors every day, right? Mm-hmm. What's the kind of ROI on that for a campaign?
So we ran. Put an asterisk on this because I don't know exactly. It's impossible to get stats of all canvassing programs across the nation. I have not seen or heard of numbers better than ours from people that I trust. So we ran the most efficient large-scale canvassing operation in 2024. We knocked 360,000 doors at a rate close to, I think it was under $2 a door, but I think it was close to $1. Yeah. Absolutely insane. For reference, the average canvassing operation is $5 to $10 per door. Every time somebody knocks on a door, even if it doesn't get answered, a campaign is spending usually $5 to $10 to do that. For us, we're only spending $1. So that return on investment just by itself is big, right? That's more money that can go to other places or just even to more doors knocked. That's cool. And then when we think of long term, outside of just strictly the doors knocked, I can speak to my experience in Nevada. I had 8 dudes in my house, and 5 of them have moved on to other political positions or to other nonprofit work since then. And all of them have came back to me and said hey, the experience in the houses were really good because it helped me figure out not only, what politics jobs look like, but what I want to do in politics. And that's, to me, the bigger impact than just the money at the doors, is building up a bench of people who are passionate enough to do these things that previously wouldn't have had those opportunities.
That also then helps DGG on the back end because now we have friendly people that are willing to come back to DGG and coordinate and help and raise money and that sort of thing too, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, a big thing is getting our people into these positions because they're just dominated by people who aren't. They're dominated by staffers who are young and don't know what the fuck is going on in politics or on online spaces. And you see, right, the missteps of the Harris campaign, anytime you see a Democrat staffer go on a show and not know what to do, it's because they're being led by people who, just to be frank, are not as experienced as the people that we can provide are.
Yeah, the trend of Democrats ending up in hostile interview situations is kind of alarming. They seem to be blindsided.
They don't get it. They don't understand, right? Ro Khanna, I have my problems with Ro Khanna, but credit to him. He knows the online spaces really well. So you don't see him doing stuff like that, but that's because he spent the last 5 years of his career navigating these online spaces. I might disagree with him on policy and all that, but he knows what he's doing when he's going on certain interviews and when he's going on certain streams and stuff like that. These other politicians, all because of 2024, have all gone we need to have an online presence. We need to, do these things. They don't know how to do it. They don't know that going on Caleb Hammer's show is going to get them a hostile interview where all of a sudden the governor of Michigan is like answering for fucking budget issues or whatever, right?
Right.
Like, they don't know these things. We do. Let us help you. Yeah.
Right. Also, from a personal finance YouTuber, like, famously, budgeting or balancing a government budget is not like a checkbook. Like, it never has been. And what are we doing here?
Yeah, exactly. A lot of these things wind up being way stupider than you think. Like, I would not be surprised if Slotkin, I believe it was Slotkin who did that interview, if she was sitting down scrolling through her Facebook or Instagram, saw Caleb Hammer poke up and was like, wow, this guy's popular. I think I could go do a good interview with him. She doesn't know that he's like, been flirting with the right wing quite a bit, that he was gonna confront her. This is all stuff that, once again, we could have told them ahead of time. But yeah.
Right. So, speaking of recent sandbaggings, Ken Martin from the DNC recently went on PodSave and didn't do so well when pressed by John Favreau on what the Democratic National Committee is doing right now in terms of fundraising, in terms of how they're distributing money. Can you talk a little bit from your perspective? DGG is an independent PAC. What relationship, if any, do you have to the DNC? And what's the role of the DNC in sort of the modern election campaign structure?
So the DNC is focused a lot on setting up infrastructure, right? Their whole thing is that setting up campaign offices, trying to get people to volunteer, stuff like that. That's really what their bag is. I think they've made it like a point to stay out of primaries for the most part as of late. In terms of how we like interact with them, it's pretty limited in what we can do because they are actually, they're the Democratic National Convention, right? They are Democrats. And so like if we coordinate with them, that has potential to violate laws just straight up. So it's not like when the DNC says, oh, you guys should do this, there's no obligation from us to do these things. There's no need to. When we look at like specifically the autopsy, I don't really care about why like the specific reasons Kamala's campaign failed, because it's the only thing it's going to affect at the end of the day is how I'm organizing around things and how like how messaging is being delivered. I'm not going to determine Democratic messaging, right? If they could have messaged better around Gaza, that is one thing. I was never going to affect that. And honestly, 90% of nonprofits or like 501c4s would never interact with that kind of stuff. Does it affect whether you win or lose? Of course. But the things that like an organizer probably cares about when it comes to the DNC autopsy is like, okay, what are the lessons being learned? Where are we changing where money is being spent? And, organizing wise, what are the methods that they're recommending moving forward? And I looked through the Democratic like 2026 organizing guide, and honestly, I was really impressed with it because a lot of it was the things that like I would say that we were doing in like Nevada, is that like building coalitions with other organizations, making sure it's not strictly about like the amount of phone calls you put out or about the amount of doors you knock, but making sure that like you have ways to quantify volunteer participation and get people into a more broad pipeline than just we need to knock 8 million doors and call 8 million callers. So yeah, like, I don't know, the DNC autopsy, a lot of people care about it. The people who care about it are media talking heads because they want to see, oh, we fucked up on the Gaza issue, and then go, that's, we made our point. But the reality is that the failures of the DNC that we care about are their failures to reach young people in general, not just because of Gaza.
What are some of those lessons learned then from 2024 that Democrats more broadly need to put into practice on the canvassing front?
Yeah, I think they need to be less scared. I think that's a big thing. I think when establishment figures start interacting with online figures, because online figures are very volatile, they get nervous about it. But I mean, when you look at Donald Trump in 2024, he was on fucking Aiden Ross, right? Like he knows what it is that if you can build up your image, it really doesn't matter who you're interacting with. And then on an organizing side, it's being more creative with how we measure things, right? phone banking and canvassing are good, but we are moving in as a society away from like people answering their phones to random phone numbers and people answering their door to random strangers. So we have to figure out, number one, how do we keep people engaged past just knocking doors? And number two, what are the other things we can be doing to hit these people, right? To talk to these people. And like I said, the Democrats organizing guide did look to be at least trying to address those changes by saying like it's not about doors knocked, it's not about phone calls, it's about like, okay, this person expressed interest in helping out with the campaign. What are we doing next outside of just getting them to knock doors? Are we getting them involved? Are we getting them to talk to their other friends about joining? These are all things that like arguably have a bigger impact than knocking doors. But previously, we just had no way to quantify it, and that wasn't the focus. It was just, hey, we need doors out of you. We need phone calls out of you. That's it. Now it's like, okay, we need you to talk to your friends and try and get them involved in some way or another, whether that's creating social media posts, whether that's even just having conversations with your friend at the table, right? Anything is better than what we're getting. So
it's interesting that the net benefit of canvassing might be the social media content that the canvassers produce, right? Like the act of canvassing produces a digital footprint of the canvassing, and that might see more engagement than the doors that actually got knocked, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. One of the problems with like canvassing is that we knocked 360,000 doors in 2024, a ridiculously efficient campaign. One of the largest scale canvassing efforts in the U.S. Donald Trump went on Joe Rogan and got 15 million views. Like,
right.
It's just sometimes it's not close. Canvassing is important because that oftentimes is the final thing that gets people out to go vote or gets people to switch their mind, is actually a face-to-face conversation with a human being. But we got to get the other 99% of the way first. And that looks like being active on social media, and not only being active, but being proud of who we are on social media and being like, yeah, we are strong liberal Democrats. We do care about these certain issues and we do think these things are right. I think a lot of people in these spaces get a little scared to be like super assertive about like the things they believe in. But the reality of the situation is that more people gravitate to people who have strong beliefs and are willing to stand up for those things rather than go, oh, I don't know, maybe we do have problems as Democrats, but
The cultural rejection of like the strong man on the left has led to like, we refuse to just celebrate ourselves.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
It's like, we do great things and like, we're embarrassed to talk about it.
Exactly. And it comes from a good place. I have the same issue here, is that whenever like we're bragging to donors or other people about the work that we do, you're bragging about it. You're like, yeah, we're kick ass for this. I'm not that type of person. I don't like bragging about myself that much.
You're doing all right here.
I'm doing okay. But I am actually doing a disservice to the things I care about because I'm the best advocate possible for these things, because I believe in these things stronger than a lot of people do. So if I'm sitting there being shy about it, then yeah, what's the response going to be from somebody who has no opinion about this? And the same thing is true for politics. I'm really passionate about Democrats. I'm really passionate about the future of our country and making sure that we have a good place for people to live and work and do all that. But if we're sitting there and in a conversation we're going, yeah, it does kind of suck. Yeah, inflation does suck. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. That's the energy you're going to get from the person you're talking to. They're going to be like, right. Yeah, you do kind of suck. I'm with you on that. So we got to be the best advocates we can be.
The maybe most surprising thing to me is like how much prouder MAGA people are to vote for Donald Trump than anyone on the left is to do anything. Like they somehow treat a vote for the establishment as like an act of resistance, and like, meanwhile, we're the actual resistance movement and we refuse to celebrate that. It's so backwards.
Yeah. It's a lot of different things, right? People are there are obviously like concrete reasons why people are frustrated with the Democratic Party or frustrated with Democratic politicians. Sure. And like there is cause for people to be like, hey, this sucks. But the fact that the Democratic Party themselves are so bad at being like, no, we do good shit. We do really good things for this country and for you as a person. It's insane. It just, I don't know. It feels like we've been on defense for the past like 10 years. And now we're seeing the effects of that. I don't know. You've got the Georgia football in the background, so I'm sure you know when a team is playing prevent defense, yeah, they lose. That's what it is. You gotta keep playing offense. You gotta keep playing your game.
Well, Georgia famously never plays offense and wins it on defense, so it's maybe not the best example.
Well, even not just defense, prevent defense, right? Everybody just guard the end zone. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what the Democrats have been doing. It's okay if we're going to win with a defensive effort, but it's got to be a strong defensive effort. It can't be just, as long as they don't score, we're fine because they're going to score.
Right, exactly. Like we need to attack on defense too, right?
Exactly. Yeah, we can be the predominant political power and still fight back against these narratives. The longer they fester and the longer they go unaddressed, people just run with them. How many people are being outed as like pro-Israel, despite like McMorrow's a good example. She's not taking any AIPAC funds, but she's on that Track AIPAC site. And it's because like she's done a good job about pushing back against it, but it's more of a culture that like, yeah, we don't push back against those things. So people can say whatever the fuck they want. Right.
I've desperately tried to avoid this issue on this channel, so I don't want to wade into that.
That's
but I will say, that is part of the reason this channel exists, right? Is the idea that more voices need to speak out proudly for these values and to celebrate these wins where they happen, right? And if we don't do it, nobody will. So it falls, unfortunately, to random weirdos on the internet to make YouTube channels and hope they catch the algorithm and, create social media and try to build that groundswell where the establishment messaging isn't carrying it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and it kind of sucks that, we're the ones having to do this. It's, trust me, I would love to go be, chilling, not worried about this stuff. I hear the sentiment repeated over and over in politics is that, like, I would rather not be included in all this stuff. I'd rather, just be living my life. But the fact of the matter is that, like you said, if we don't do it, nobody will. And we can't live in a passive society anymore, unfortunately. The people at the wheel are not good enough to trust them. We gotta keep our finger on the pulse there.
I'm also now at the age, I have kids. I'm worried that at some point they're gonna read this history and they're gonna ask, what did you do?
Yep.
Right? How did you stop this? Because I'm the children of German family, right? And I had to ask my grandmother at one point, like, what did we do about the Nazis? Were we the bad guys? Like, what did our family do? Right. And it's like, it's a hard question to deal with. And I just didn't want to be in that position where I was like having to split hairs on why I did nothing, but it was okay.
Yeah, exactly. We live in a democracy, and the reality is that every single citizen, in my opinion, is responsible in some way or another for the rise of Donald Trump. And that being said, we also should be responsible for fixing the country. And I think if there's one silver lining out of Donald Trump's presidency, it's waking up a large chunk of Americans to the fact that they cannot be passive observers of their own country anymore.
Yeah, I think we just read too much stuff in our history books and thought those norms would hold forever. And it turns out, it takes enough bad faith actors and they're really under threat. Exactly.
And really just one guy going like, this isn't a rule? Fuck it. Who cares?
Yeah.
I'll just do it then.
It's like we've turned the entire government into bond markets.
Yeah.
If it's not enumerated specifically, it doesn't exist.
Exactly. And, it's nice that we've had a country that could persist like that for 250 years of our history, but it's a new world. It's a new day. People will take advantage of those loopholes. People will, give them an inch, you'll take a mile. And that's exactly what's happened. So if we want our country to be preserved and to have the values it has had for the last 250 years, we got to fight for it.
Well, this is all about activation. So If anybody who heard this is concerned and wants to get involved or just wants to support DGG, what's the best way to do that? How can they reach you? What's the next step?
Easiest way is always if you can, on Discord. If you are watching this and you don't have a Discord, you can always email me. It's bryce@digitalgroundgame.org, BRYCE@digitalgroundgame.org. But the easiest way to get in the know, the easiest way to start volunteering is to make a Discord account, hop into discord.gg/digitalgroundgame, and we will figure out how to, get you involved in whatever capacity. Maybe that's knocking doors, maybe that's doing research, maybe that's actually just making shit posts on Twitter and posting them. Every little bit matters.
It's a real job. I've seen it.
Yep, it is. It is 100%. It's important too. The weird world we live in, but that's what it is.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned digitalgroundgame.org. There's information there as well.
Yeah. Digitalgroundgame.org is our website, so that should give you a pretty good starting point to see what we're about, what we're doing. If you have any specific questions, or if you actually do just want to get involved, like I said, you can shoot me an email, bryce@digitalgroundgame.org, or join the Discord. That's probably the easiest route to get you, from 0 to 100.
Awesome. And then one more thing you mentioned that I want to touch on. You mentioned you wrote something for the Pragmatic Papers. What are those?
So the Pragmatic Papers is it's a news media website that was created by volunteers who just are passionate about, either fighting disinformation or certain subjects and making sure they're brought to light. So if you go to pragmaticpapers.com, you can actually see we've got like 40 different volumes filled with articles ranging from space to the newest thing that Donald Trump has done this week. I wrote an article this past week about like the fundraising, what it kind of takes to fundraise, and how, and the future of what we're going to do with the money that we got. So
awesome. And that's pragmaticpapers.com?
Yes, correct.
Awesome. Bryce, I appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for your time.
Thanks again to Bryce for joining me. If you want to support Digital Ground Game, check out digitalgroundgame.org to get started. And if you want to see more interview style content on the channel, please let me know in the comments. And as always, thank you for watching. If you like what I do here and want to support independent media, click like and subscribe, or maybe drop a comment down below to help the algorithm. It's super helpful to a brand new channel like mine and doesn't cost you a thing. You can check out more of my videos about games, hobbies, and politics here on the Mundangerous Thoughts YouTube channel, or one of these videos that YouTube thinks you might like.